Hi, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Good Sports. I'm Mike Lowe of the Portland Press Herald, and a very special guest with me today is Paul Betit. Paul's our sports writer. He covers the Portland Pirates. He covers a slew of high school sports, including soccer in the fall, ice hockey in the winter, lacrosse in the spring. Paul is retiring, and Saturday is his last day. Paul, I wish you the best in retirement.
You too.
I know you have. You tell me you have things to do, but I don't believe that.
I do have some things to do, not as much as I've been doing.
Right, you'll enjoy life a little bit now.
I'll pace myself.
Paul's been with the company for 39 years, the first 11 at the Kennebec Journal in Augusta, and the last 28 here at the Portland Press Herald. A lot of the time you worked in the Brunswick Bureau, which has since been closed.
Exactly. I closed that.
And yes, they said, we don't want to have Paul. We need Paul in the office now. We need to make sure he's actually doing work. That's what it came down to that. I heard the conversations.
They took the clock out.
They took Paul, what is the biggest changes you've seen in the journalism industry?
Well, it's the internet.
Right.
That was not even on the radar when I started in this business back in 1974, and I think that's had the biggest impact through my professional life.
I was a junior in high school.
I was junior in high school. Well, I started early. Yeah.
But really, I mean, we've gone, even in my time as a journalist, there's been a huge change. But I mean, you must have started with hot type, correct?
No, it was an offset press at the Kennebec Journal, a new one, but it was.
Right.
But there was evidence that there had been hot type there, so I did have an idea of, and they were still doing some commercial printing, where they needed to have hot type for the whatever the font that they were using. So I actually did get to see that.
Well, I know what I've enjoyed. You've joined Twitter this year and stuff like that. I mean, when someone who hasn't done stuff like that, people our age, Paul, they look at us and say, "Why are you on Twitter?" Well, we're on it because of work.
Oh, exactly.
But I mean, you certainly, I know you tried to make yours a little at least enjoyable for people to work.
Well, you got 144 characters, and I try to use every single one.
Actually, it's 140, so that's probably why you're
over.
Oh my God, that's why you never. Yeah, that's why in the middle of it's just cut off. Boom.
The end is just not.
Nothing but.
I will continue to do that.
Good.
In some fashion.
All right. Well, make sure we have your new Twitter handle.
It'll be a different handle.
Yes, I want to make sure I have it. Paul, for you, what's been some of your most memorable moments?
Well, I think the biggest thing was I did a feature about Ted Williams one time, so I got to spend a half a day with Ted up in the golf course up in Rockland, and it was pretty interesting, listening to him talk about baseball and fishing. And,
right. Well, that's of course he used to come up here all the time to fish.
Exactly, and so that was probably the high point of the high points. But I also was a real reporter at one time, a real reporter that I did news, and I interviewed Jimmy Carter when he was running for president in '76. I did an interview one time with Mel Blanc, the voice of
everybody,
Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck. And it was a great interview. It was over the phone, and every answer was a different voice. And after the first 2 or 3 voices, it wasn't funny anymore. You could listen to Yosemite Sam just so many times. So those are probably sports-wise. Gale Sayers. I did a feature about Gale Sayers one time. He was visiting up in Maine, and that was a pretty good interview. It was very difficult because he didn't like to talk about himself. And
no, he never did. That's one of the things. When he retired, a guy who obviously one of the greatest running backs in NFL history had to retire because of injuries.
Right. Very early in his career, and relatively early. Because Brian's song, the movie about Brian Piccolo, had just come out. But he was very cordial and nice, and it was an interesting interview.
So for you who don't know, Paul is also a published author. He's got 2 books. He's written 2 books, and he's finishing up a 3rd one. In fact, I was a character in his first book.
You were a suspect, yes.
A suspect in a murder case, and thank God I was innocent.
Innocent.
I was.
Yeah, we did that by the before the end. Everybody knew that. It was
that Mike Lowe was a good guy at the end.
People who read the book closely knew all the time he was innocent, but the characters didn't.
Right. And his books are based in Vietnam.
The first one I wrote was based in Vietnam, and then the last one was based in Ethiopia. And this one is based in Sweden. While I was in the Army for 4 years, and I was stationed in Vietnam, and I was stationed in Ethiopia.
Wow.
Lived there for nearly 2 years. And Sweden, though, I didn't go until just the last 4 or 5 years I've gone.
Well,
Visited Sweden. try to recreate it what it was like in 1971. So.
Well, there you go. Make sure you can keep reading Paul, even though he's not writing for our paper anymore. You can read him in his books, and I'm sure he's got others up his sleeve. Paul, we've got to cut this short, but listen, it's been a pleasure working with you all these years.
Likewise.
We'll miss you in the office.
I will miss you guys,
And
but not that much.
anytime you want to come in, call me first, and I'll make sure I'm somewhere else.
Okay.
Take care, folks.
Thank you. Good night.